Early one morning, just before the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, Michael Henderson, a man in his late 40s, drove along the desolate Cache Creek Road a few miles east of Nespelem, Washington. The road was known for its solitude, bordered by dense forests and rolling hills. Michael enjoyed the serenity of these early morning drives, finding them a welcome escape from the stress of his everyday life. As he navigated the winding road, the headlights of his car cut through the darkness, illuminating the mist that clung to the pavement. Suddenly, in the beam of his headlights, Michael saw a figure standing by the roadside, a man with long, dark hair, wearing traditional Native American attire. The man raised his thumb, signaling for a ride. Michael hesitated for a moment but then decided to stop. After all, he reasoned, it was rare to see anyone out here at this hour, and the man might need help. Michael pulled over and rolled down the window. "Need a ride?" he asked. The hitchhiker nodded and stepped closer. "Thank you," he said, his voice calm and steady. "I'm heading towards Nespelem." "Hop in," Michael replied, unlocking the passenger door. The man climbed into the car and settled into the seat, his presence oddly comforting despite the circumstances. Michael couldn't help but notice the man's intense, dark eyes and the aura of sadness that seemed to surround him. "I'm Michael," he said, trying to break the silence. "I'm Kaliska," the hitchhiker replied, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. As they drove, an uneasy silence settled between them. Finally, Michael asked, "So, what brings you out here so early in the morning?" Kaliska sighed, his expression somber. "It's a long story, but if you don't mind, I'd like to share it with you." Michael nodded, intrigued. "Go ahead." Kaliska began his tale, his voice low and haunting. "Many years ago, this land was home to my people. We lived peacefully, hunting and fishing along the river. But everything changed when settlers arrived. They brought disease, violence, and greed. Our way of life was destroyed." Michael listened intently as Kaliska continued, painting a vivid picture of the past. "There was a young warrior named Tahoma. He was brave and strong, a protector of our people. But the settlers saw him as a threat. One night, they ambushed him, killing him in cold blood. His spirit could not rest, consumed by anger and sorrow." Kaliska paused, his eyes reflecting the pain of the story he told. "They say that on nights like this, when the mist rolls in, Tahoma's spirit haunts this road. He seeks revenge on those who travel here, luring them to their deaths. Many have seen him, but few live to tell the tale." A chill ran down Michael's spine as he absorbed Kaliska's words. "Do you believe in ghosts?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Kaliska turned to look at him, his eyes piercing. "Yes, I do. And so should you." Before Michael could respond, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. His vision blurred, and he struggled to breathe. The car swerved, and he realized he was having a heart attack. Desperately, he tried to regain control, but it was too late. The car veered off the road, crashing into a gully below. The impact was violent, and everything went black. When Michael regained consciousness, he was in a state of shock. Pain radiated through his body, and he struggled to focus. He remembered Kaliska and looked around frantically, but the passenger seat was empty. The door was ajar, and there was no sign of the hitchhiker. Panic set in as Michael tried to make sense of what had happened. He fumbled for his phone and managed to call 911, his voice weak and shaky. "I've been in an accident. Cache Creek Road, please hurry." The minutes felt like hours as Michael waited for help. The pain in his chest was unbearable, and he felt his strength ebbing away. He could hear the distant wail of sirens approaching, but his mind was clouded with confusion and fear. Finally, the first responders arrived, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. They pulled Michael from the wreckage, their faces filled with concern as they assessed his condition. "Hang in there," one of them said, his voice reassuring. "We're going to get you to a hospital." Michael tried to speak, to tell them about Kaliska, but the words wouldn't come. His vision blurred again, and he slipped into unconsciousness. Hours later, at the hospital, Michael's body was discovered in the emergency room, lifeless. Despite the efforts of the medical team, he had succumbed to the heart attack and the injuries from the crash. The police investigated the accident scene, puzzled by Michael's last words. "There's no sign of another person," one officer said, looking around the area where the car had crashed. "He was alone." "But he called 911, another replied. "He must have picked up someone. He mentioned a hitchhiker." The officers exchanged uneasy glances, the story of Tahoma and Kaliska lingering in their minds. Locals had spoken of the ghostly hitchhiker for years, but few had taken the tale seriously. As the first responders packed up their equipment, one of them noticed something unusual near the crash site. A faint outline of footprints led from the car into the woods, but they ended abruptly, as if the person had vanished into thin air. Word of Michael's encounter with the hitchhiker spread quickly through Nespelem and the surrounding areas. People whispered about the malevolent spirit of Cache Creek Road, and the legend of Tahoma grew stronger with each retelling. Locals avoided the road at night, especially during the early hours before dawn when the mist was thickest. Those who had to travel it did so with a sense of dread, always on the lookout for the mysterious hitchhiker who might appear out of nowhere. Years passed, but the story never faded. Michael's tragic fate became a part of the legend, a cautionary tale for those who dared to travel the haunted road. And while some dismissed it as mere superstition, others believed wholeheartedly in the vengeful ghost that roamed Cache Creek Road, forever seeking revenge for the wrongs done to his people. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the mist rolled in and the world seemed to hold its breath, the spirit of Tahoma watched over the road, waiting for the next unsuspecting traveler to cross his path. And those who did would find themselves drawn into a tale of horror and tragedy, their fates intertwined with the restless spirit that haunted the lonely stretch of road east of Nespelem.